Hey guys, it's your boy Nico here from the Small Axe Podcast. I want to show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. You see, not everybody begins their investing career with millions of dollars, a huge network of investors, or the knowledge necessary to become successful in this space, and that's okay. What I focus on here on this podcast is helping you hone your skills, sharpen your tools to become the best investor that you can be. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or the guest, feel free to do so. Love you guys.
All right, greetings, good morning, my favorite people in the world, Small Axe community. It's me, Nico. Today I'm here solo. I'm going to be chatting with you guys. You can hear my voice is a little hoarse, got a little cold going on or whatever it is, or just talking too much, as my daughter might say. But I want to talk to you about a few things today. So, one of the main things that I do is acquisitions, and that's probably my favorite, well, definitely my favorite part of multifamily is acquisitions, which entails deal hunting, deal finding, negotiating with brokers, assembling a team, getting something under contract, etc. So this is what I thrive on. And part of that is also underwriting. So when I say underwriting a deal, this isn't like going to underwriting with a lender or something like that. It's similar because it's just essentially an analysis of a property. How do I project or map out what's going to happen in the next few years, or for me owning the property? So we build a pro forma, we underwrite the deal, and this is probably underwrite the deal using special tools and calculators and deal analyzers, right? And this is probably one of the most, I guess, challenging topics as a beginning multifamily investor. And I know that I struggled with it as well up front. I spent exactly 1 year, almost to the day, with my mentor, going over deal after deal after deal and learning how to underwrite. And I went through a variety of different underwriting models as well, and or analyzing tools, whatever you want to call them, calculators, right? Or advanced calculators. And I went through a number of them over the course of that first year of learning, and I'm still learning, guys. But I've stumbled upon a few that I really like and I really use. One of them being Synthesis, which is Chris Jackson's. One of them from Bill Ham, a phenomenal deal analyzing tool. I really like Lone Star Capital's as well. Robert Beardley's, he's got a great underwriting tool as well. And then I made my own. I have my own proprietary Small Axe underwriting tool, which I am currently giving away for free, but that's going to change. So for those of you out there who want a sophisticated, do-it-all kind of underwriting analyzing tool, I have it, and I have it for free right now, but that's going to change because I'm actually working on version 2 of it to make it a lot more user-friendly for people, and I'm going to be selling that. So if you want to get your hands on version 1 right now, come just reach out to me, send me an email, nico.salgado456@gmail.com, or rather, better yet, info@smalaxecommunities.com, or find me on any Instagram or Facebook and send me a DM and I'll just send it to you. But I got to get your email to do that. That's the trade-off. I'll put you on my email list. If you don't like what you see from my newsletters, that's okay, no problem. You could always unsubscribe. But so I am working on my own proprietary underwriting analysis multifamily deal writing tool, right? So my deal analyzer, and it's called the Small Axe underwriting tool, okay? And it's currently working very well, and it's beautiful, and it's got a lot of functionality to it. However, it's not as user-friendly for the beginners as I would like, because it's very sophisticated. It could do a ton of different things. It could do a lot of different things. For example, you could do different types of loans and mezzanine debt and supplemental loans, and you can even figure out how to do pref equity and all these really cool features on it. And it's got the waterfalls, it's got the splits, it's got syndication model as well as a JV model. So it's got everything you need and more. It's pretty cool. And if you reach out to me now, like today, I'm going to give it to you for free. However, I'm going to be charging money for it, as I said, in the very, very near future. I'll even be doing some courses on it, how to use it best. And I will be pushing that out to you guys, my beloved fans and listeners, to help you out on your journey. Because I know, again, my first year, I was sitting with my mentor for at least an hour every single week, reviewing deals, going over deals, and analyzing deals. And it is imperative to your success. Okay. Whether or not you want to be the acquisitions guy, whether or not you want to be the underwriting guy or girl on your team, it doesn't matter. You have to know how to underwrite deals. There is no doubt about it. If you don't know how to underwrite a deal, you should not be doing a deal. Okay. You should not get involved. You should not get investors involved if you don't understand what you're dealing with. So imperative that you understand how to underwrite a deal. Now, if you're listening to this right now and you hear some weird noise in the background, that's my dog chewing on a bone, hanging out with me. He's a good boy, a German Shepherd Husky, a Gerberian Shepsky, they call him. His name is Kova. I actually got him from a friend in the multifamily space, a colleague who helped me out, and he's a wonderful dog. But that's what you're hearing in the background. It's not my bones grinding together. I am not that old yet, although I do have some arthritis. So let's jump into this. How am I underwriting today? Right. So today is and depending on where you are and what market you're in, today is a very different market than it was 18, 24 months ago. There's no doubt about it. People were extremely aggressive on their underwriting 2 years ago. Why? Because debt was extremely cheap and affordable, which drove prices up. Right. So if you can pay less in your mortgage and your loan payment, you can pay more for the property. So that compressed cap rates to a ridiculous amount. I've seen deals trade for sub 3 cap. And that's a whole nother story though, cap rates. I don't even want to actually get into cap rates right now because I kind of feel like they're a non-issue and we shouldn't even be discussing them. They have a lot of impact for understanding how much your property is worth and how, appraisers are going to value it, et cetera. But I feel like the issues with cap rates are that they're just so, how do I say it? Subjective. People can change cap rates, right? People don't necessarily include all of their expenses. So what is a cap rate? Okay. The cap rate is it's the NOI divided by the purchase price. Then you get your cap rate. So if you have an NO and to get the NOI, that's a subjective part, right? Not the cap rate. The subjective part is the NOI. So people can include more income perhaps, or not include some delinquencies or bad income, or not include some expenses. And you see it all the time. If you're looking at deals as much as I am, and you're looking at deals every single day or multiple deals in one day, you're going to see that some people leave expenses out. And the only way you're going to find that those expenses actually exist is through due diligence when you get the property under contract. And sometimes you don't even know those expenses in actuality, or when you're operating the property. And sometimes it takes months to a year to understand exactly how the property is operating to get the real NOI. And then you can calculate the purchase price or the valuation based on the cap rate. Okay. So I don't love talking about cap rates. I don't love it when the broker's like, what cap rate are you looking to buy at? Well, that's very subjective. I mean, I want to buy at an 8 cap, right? But how are you valuing the property? How are you coming to your NOI? That's the real question about how we're going to get to this cap rate. Are you using current actual financials, or are you using a pro forma financials? And then people tout, well, this is based on this cap rate is based on pro forma expenses, which is not always going to be the case, because getting to that number as well, those pro forma expenses, it's a pro forma, right? You can't necessarily calculate it out exactly. So people are always playing with or toying with the cap rate, and I just ignore it. And then there comes the fact of with the cap rate, sorry to get so far into this, but it's such an important topic, and I feel like it's just overused. If somebody's like buying at a 2 cap, sometimes it's justifiable. If you're buying on actuals and the property is 25% occupied or 50% occupied, of course it's going to be a very low cap rate, right? You're buying with very little income, very low NOI. So you're technically paying a lot more for what the property is worth. But nobody's going to sell their property for whatever reasons, or very few people will sell their property that is performing poorly at what it's worth today, at how it's performing. Everybody bases it off of pro forma. It's just the way it is. So what does that come down to? That comes down to you understanding to a T, or as best as possible, how to make that pro forma and how the property will actually function under your ownership, how it will perform. All right, so let's jump into it. How am I underwriting deals today? So I am being more conservative on a few things, mainly occupancy and delinquency and rent projections. So in the past, you can rents were going up extremely fast. 16%, 30% in some areas year over year for a couple of years. It was about 2 years of crazy rent pro forma. And you never forecast that for 5 years. Nobody does that. But if you're looking at the comps and you get good comps and you're talking to your property manager who's local and your boots on the ground guys who are local and they're seeing comps that you feel very confident in, you can push it 10, 15, 20, 30% depending on the property, right? And that's okay, but you're not going to then project that or make that performer year after year, because you can still make the case today that rents are low in certain properties. There's no doubt about it. Okay, just make sure you understand the rents and where your property should be. So let's say I'm buying a property, I was looking at one today, rents are at 850, and I know that I can get them to 1100. How do I know that? Because we're getting 1150 to 1199 on similar properties that I own right now. That's how I know. So that's a huge increase. But let's say I'm pro forma-ing my rents to be 1100 at the end of year one. Okay, I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to say at the end of year one, this is what rents should be. However, then we're going to factor in a loss to lease, okay, and vacancy, because if you're pushing rents, people are going to leave, right? So if you're saying, hey, we're going to increase rents by 30%, a lot of people are just not going to take it. They're just going to leave, and then you're going to be left with vacancy. Now it's taking 30 to 45 days to fill units up, whereas in the past, you could turn a unit within a few days and then have it filled within 2 weeks. Okay, it's a lot more downtime right now. So I'm factoring in higher vacancy, at least 10% year one. Okay, and of course, depending on the property size, you might want to go a little bit even higher. Smaller property, 15% vacancy. I mean, on a 10 unit property, 1 unit is 10%, 2 units is 20% vacant. Okay, so you got to factor that in. Year one, I am going to 1100, let's say. However, I'm factoring in a huge loss to lease and a good number of vacancy at minimum of 10% for years 1 and 2, because we're pushing rents up, right? And then the delinquency and the loss to lease, I'm going to burn off, okay? And I'm going to get down to about 2 or 3% delinquency and loss to lease by year 3. So whether you're at the end of year one, I'm going to forecast maybe 10% delinquency and loss to lease, then 5% year 2 or 6%, whatever it is, and then maybe 3 or 4% or even 2%, depending on how I feel about the property, year 3 or 4. Okay, so you're not going to be fully functioning until or stabilized, as we say, until year 3 or 4. And that's just how I'm forecasting things right now. I'm a little bit more conservative than other people might be. Another thing to consider, my rents, so like I'm pushing them 30% year one, but we're not getting that. So if you look at today's actuals and the actuals are average rent is 850, my average rent next year at the end of year one is only going to be 950, right? So I'm only pushing them $100 average, right? We're going to push more, obviously, but we're only going to achieve about 100 more on average in our pro forma rents by the end of year one. That also being said, 30% increase in year one, we're burning off that loss to lease for 3 years, but years 2, 3, 4, and subsequent years, you got to take the market average for rent increases. That's anywhere from 1.5% to 3%. I plug in 3%. I'm in a high growth area in Florida, and I know that I'm going to be pushing for 3% year over year. To be conservative, I always take the conservative route when forecasting expenses. Particularly, the most important ones to nail down are your insurance and your taxes. If you don't know insurance or taxes, you call the county for the tax assessor, call the tax assessor of the county to get the accurate tax estimate based on the new purchase price, okay? Sometimes you'll get the millage rate with a percentage of purchase price that they're going to charge. Sometimes you call them and there's different ways to value it upon sale. So just make sure you know how to reassess the taxes, extremely important. And you also need to know what the insurance is going to be, extremely important in my market in Florida. When I'm underwriting quickly, I will punch in a number that I know is pretty standard or pretty fair or safe for me, which is about 1,500 a door a year in insurance. However, we just locked up insurance for a little over 1,000 a door a year. So it's possible to get lower, but just to be conservative right off the bat, just to see if the deal's going to work, I'm going to pop in about 1,500 a door. Okay, then you go through all of your other expenses. And if you're noticing there are some expenses that are missing from the T12 or from the broker OM, you're going to assume that you're going to have to put those expenses in if you know that you're going to have them. For example, let's say trash. If they didn't include a trash fee, you might have to include a trash fee, and I know how much it is for the areas that I operate in. Okay, pest control, other contract services. If you don't know them, you can kind of get the norm. Well, actually, here's a tip. If you don't know the norm, you can contact somebody who has CoStar access, and you can get a CoStar report for that market, and it will give you the averages of what people are paying for their expenses. Huge tip, guys. Find somebody who's CoStar access. It could be a broker friend. It could be a lender. It could be a property manager, somebody who's got access to CoStar. You request from them a simple CoStar report that they can pull in 5 minutes that will give you access to the market averages for expenses, and including income and pricing and rent and all of that stuff, all that awesome data. And it'll give you the average based on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star properties. Okay. So make sure you're doing that. That's a huge tip right there. So now, if I feel comfortable about my expenses and I'm near-ish, somewhere around 50% expense ratio, I go and I see what other income I can add. Can we add laundry facility? Can we add a dog park? Can we add rubs or bill back for any utilities, or just a flat fee for utility bill back? Can we add other fees, pet rent, etc.? Can we add these? And if so, I will add them to the other income, but I don't fully achieve that other income until at the end of year 2. Okay, so make sure that you're burning that off as well, and not projecting to achieve all of that other income by the end of year 1. All right, so I have this done. I also pop in my accounting fees, because I know how much I pay for my accountant and my bookkeeper every year. I pop in syndicating fees, etc., but I typically just go for a 3.5% closing cost to start with, and then I kind of dial that in if I'm actually going into contract. Sometimes it's a little bit less, but 3.5, you'll be safe. Okay, because especially if you're doing a PPM and doing a syndication. All right, so then what I do is I look at the deal, and I almost forgot this: loans. Your lender, you need to be talking to your lender all the time. And I text with my lender almost every other day, and I'm like, hey, my man, what should I be underwriting with today? And today, for example, he's at 6.75%. And I always plug in, this is a local community bank, so I always plug in 6 months of IO only and a 25-year amortization, which leaves me in the middle of 20 and 30, right? Because it could be 20, it could be 25, it could be 30, and you could get more or no interest only, but you can always fight for it for different terms with a local lender. And you should fight with different terms, and you could always, and you should be shopping around with different banks or credit unions if you're going that route. I've never done an agency loan, and I will at some point, but I'm still very, working really hard and building relationships with the local lenders down there in Florida. They've been really good to me. So I'm going to continue that. Okay. And then you have to know what LTV you're going to be going in at. So you have to I punch in around 60 LTV. So I'm putting down 40%. It could be less. You could get 35%. You might have to put down 45 or even 50%, depending on the deal. So make sure you're testing that out to see if the deal still works. And then the last, and probably one of the most significant factors, is your CapEx budget. And people forget to put in a CapEx budget or make an offer without having a realistic CapEx budget. And then when they go through due diligence, they end up retrading, and retrading is a no-no. So when you're underwriting and analyzing a deal, you want to estimate somewhere at least between $10,000 and $15,000 a door a year if you are not very knowledgeable on the property, and especially if it is older than 30 years or so. If it's pre-1990, 1980, I would definitely pop in around $10,000 to $15,000 a door a year. I'm sorry, $10,000 to $15,000 a door in your CapEx budget. So a 10 unit, you're going to have anywhere from 100,000 to 150,000. And you have to also kind of factor in some things that you might not know. So for example, we have septic tanks on our properties, and you have to know the condition of the septic tanks. Do you have to replace a septic tank? If there are window units for ACs, or if there are HVAC systems, HVAC systems are more expensive to replace. So you want to get to understand the years that they were made. You need to know about roofing, maybe as a broker, or pull some permits, or go and build facts, get a build facts, BUILDFAX report. And that will help you out greatly to understand what improvements have been done to the property and what has not been done. But when you're first analyzing a deal, don't get too into the weeds, because you're competing against a lot of other people, likely, and speed wins. You want to give some sort of feedback to the broker or the seller, if you're going direct to seller, as soon as possible. So I will, when I get a deal, I'm going to download all the documents. I'm going to do my underwriting right away. And I have a lot of different tools that I use for underwriting besides my actual calculator, my deal analyzer. I have a lot of websites that I go to, which I will share at some other point. And you do that deal analysis, and you reach out to the broker right away to tell what you think, even if you're 20% off asking. And I will tell you that I'm usually about 20% off asking price. So you feel the broker out, say, hey, man or woman, I am about 20 to 30% off asking. I'm coming in at 120 a door. You're asking 150 a door, or whatever it is. Do you think it's worth me popping in an offer? And sometimes they'll say, nope, go pound sand. I have 5 other offers at asking price. But sometimes they'll say, yes, pop in an offer. And if that's the case, you pop in your offer and you sit and wait. Put a timestamp or a date on that LOI that you offer with, and make sure that you give the seller about a week to respond. And if they don't respond within that time frame, it is null and void, because things change all the time, like lending terms, right? The market shifts all the time. So those are things to note. Anyway, there is so much more to talk about with deals. However, I just wanted to pop in today to talk to you guys about my underwriting process today. This is now the beginning of March in 2024, how I'm looking at deals. So quick recap: if you have been underwriting deals for a long time, make sure you're factoring in lower than anticipated rent growth, because rent growth has been pretty stagnant in most areas. However, it will bounce back, but you cannot project that. Go for the lower end of rent growth, right? Obviously, if you're starting off with very significantly low rents, you can bump up to market, but do it slowly, and then project your low rent growth year over year, 1.5% to 3% year over year, after you achieve market rent, and you know for a fact that that is market rent. Okay. Punch in higher vacancy, because we are seeing higher vacancy and longer time downtime in units. Punch in higher delinquency, because people are struggling out there, especially in C-class properties. Punch in higher loss to lease and burn off that loss to lease. So don't expect to be pushing rents up to market within a few months. It might take a couple of years, okay? But you will get there. Make sure your taxes and insurance are in line with your expenses, are accurate for your expenses. And then make sure you have debt dialed in, you have your closing costs dialed in, and you have your CapEx budget pretty dialed in, to where you're not going to have to retrade, because you don't want to get branded as a retrader, okay? And if you run into any problems, or you want to contact me, please reach out to me, info@smallactscommunities.com, or find me on Instagram, or find me on Facebook, DM me, and get my free deal analyzing tool today, because it's not going to be free tomorrow, okay? And I mean that. I am working on a crazy sick version of this. I said I called it like the Small Axe Deal Analyzer or whatever. Let me actually see what I have it as a Small Axe underwriting tool right now. But you guys got to see this. I will share a video at some point. I'm going to have a bunch of different educational videos on how to use it, etc. But for now, reach out to me, and I will give you one-on-one guidance and a quick video on how to use this underwriting tool for free. Don't pay $100. Don't pay $200, $300 that other people are charging, because I'm going to charge that tomorrow. But today, get it for free. send me a DM or an email at info@smallaxecommunities.com, and I'm going to send it to you for free. My dog is done. He's trying to go outside. I love you guys so much. I hope this week is killer for you. Don't stop looking for deals. Don't get discouraged. You're going to find an awesome deal. And if you find one in the Florida area, reach out to me. I'll help you put it together and we will kick some butt. We're going to take over the world. Love you guys.
All right. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website at smallaxecommunities.com. Book a call with me. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.